Welcome to your class. For your practice tonight, you're actually going to need a couple of blocks if you have them, or at least one block and a rolled up towel or a blanket. And then you're also going to need either a yoga strap or a scarf or a tie or even a belt. It's just something that can be used that's sturdy enough that you can use as kind of an extension for your arms. So our practice tonight is going to be very much focused on opening up the front of the body and the upper half of the body, as well as the upper back as well. So lots of tension that we hold in the upper half of our body, and we're just going to help clear some of that congestion out. And with springtime often comes like seasonal allergies, which can often create like a lot of tension in the chest, but also in the upper back as well. So we're just going to get some things moving and clearing, and hopefully by the end of class, you'll be feeling a little bit more spacious and a little less tense and tight. Okay. So we're going to begin either sitting in an easy pose, cross-legged on a block, or you can also sit Seiza style on your heels with a block in between your heels as well. Whatever feels more comfortable actually for you, and where you can keep your upper body nice and straight, so you don't have to worry about collapsing in through your chest. Okay. So for those of you that are just joining, if you have a couple of blocks and a strap for tonight's class, or something that can be used as a strap, like a scarf or a towel or a belt or even a tie, okay, something for that. All right, so we're just going to begin just sitting up nice and tall. And actually, we're going to begin with an exercise, just a breathing exercise for the upper half of the body. So you're going to bring your hands onto your rib cage, and you want your fingers facing forward and your thumbs facing back. Okay? And it's almost like you're, holding in through the sides of the body. Elbows are bent but relaxed, and the shoulders are drawn away from the ears. Okay? So think about just noticing your current breath as you close your eyes. And feel for what it's like breathing into your hands there. So don't try to change anything with your breath, actually. Just see, what is it like? How far up is your breath going? Where are you noticing the breath is not going? And what does it feel like to breathe into your hands here? For many of us, the breath is often very shallow in through the chest, and around where your hands are, where the bottom of your rib cage is, there's a bunch of intercostal muscles that sit between the ribs. They get really tight very quickly, and they're very small little muscles, so it doesn't take much for them to actually tense. So now as you're noticing this breath and you're noticing how your hands are moving, deliberately start to take some deeper breaths now. So it's like you're trying to expand out through the side of your body, like you're playing an accordion. Think of it that way. You're not forcing the breath, you're not rushing it. So it might not even change that much from where you were just a few moments ago. That's okay. That's what this class is all about, is opening up the upper half of our body, which is not a very common part of the Yin principles or the Yin practice. If we think about anatomically, our body is very much Yin from the hips down to the feet, and the upper half of the body is very Yang, so very Yang, the more active part of the body. And we don't mean active in the sense of like anatomically how we use the body, it's more energetically how how the body is split in half. So these postures that we're going to do tonight have been very much westernized. So that if you were to go to, say, East Asia and practice yin, they don't do anything for the upper half of the body. But they also don't use their body like we do in the Western culture, right? So their body gets very tight because they sit on the floor a lot. They walk a lot. They use a lot of their lower body. But here at least in North America, we tend to focus a lot on using the upper part of the body. And it can create a lot of tension, a lot of imbalance. So tonight we're just going to clear that out. And take a couple of more really deep breaths and just using that breath to kind of settle yourself here. Giving yourself that opportunity to have stepped away from the rest of your day. I mean, the day potentially, depending on what time you're practicing here, could be very late in the day, could be midday, but at least part of your day is over. And let that go. Take one more breath in. And one more breath out. And then just let the hands relax on the lap for a moment. Just breathing naturally in and out through your nose. And then starting to let the eyes softly open. We're going to work through this practice very gently and progressively. So we're going to start off with some more subtle postures to open up the upper half of the body. And then we'll go into some deeper postures where we're going to be targeting some of the deeper layers of fascia and connective tissue. So we're going to start, if you're sitting cross-legged, then I'm going to ask that you switch out the cross of your legs. Okay. If you're sitting Seiza style, you can continue to sit like that as long as that feels comfortable on your knees. If you want to put a pair of socks on or a sweater just to keep yourself warm, if you're feeling a little bit chilled, absolutely go ahead. Just make sure that you feel nice and comfortable here. Okay. So our first posture has two different layers to it. We're going to start with the more subtle one, and then potentially you might move into a slightly deeper range, but you also might just stay exactly where we start. Okay. So you're going to take the arms out from your shoulders. Your palms are facing forward. And then you're going to tuck the right arm underneath the left, and you're crossing at the elbows here. So the elbows are stacked one on top of the other. And then you're going to take your palms onto your shoulders. Okay. So for some people right here, this is already quite an intense layer of sensation through the upper back, maybe down through the tricep, maybe even through the front of the neck or the sides of the neck. But it's a really effective, very subtle way at just allowing some of that tension to release. And the other benefit of this particular posture is you'd be surprised what giving yourself a hug can actually do for your parasympathetic state and help to lower cortisol and blood pressure levels in your body. So just keep finding a pace to your breath that feels really effortless and very comfortable. So don't worry about trying to take these really deep breaths into the chest. I mean, your hands and your arms are literally covering your lungs. So this could be in itself just, a little bit challenging. Take it nice and slow. Keeping the sides of your neck soft. Shoulders are drawn away from the ears. Jaw is relaxed. If it's comfortable, you can close your eyes, or at least soften the gaze so that you're not really looking at anything. You can start to feel some sensation right between the shoulder blades, right between the scapula. And if that's a place where you tend to hold a lot of tension, just imagine that you're breathing out through that upper back. Slow, deep breaths in. Don't rush. Take your time. So we're going to take 2 more rounds of breath, just like this. And then you're going to decide whether you choose to stay like this or whether you want to move to the second level of this shape. The second level isn't any better. It's just different. And you just respect what your body feels capable of doing in this moment. So staying either here, or if you would like to go a little bit deeper, you're going to unravel the hands, but you're going to keep those elbows stacked one on top of the other. And then you're going to start to twist tie the hands. Maybe you're bringing your palms together. Maybe you're just sliding your hand down and holding on to your wrist. And again, maybe you're just holding on to the shoulders. This is working beautifully. Stay as you are. If you're taking an interlace of the hands, try to see if you can draw your shoulders down a little bit because they might want to creep up. And then see if you can draw the elbows slightly away from your chest. Now this will make things a little bit more intense. So of course you can keep those elbows more tucked in towards the heart center. It makes it just a little bit less strenuous here. Okay. Just finding your breath again. If you did make a little shift in your shape. Breathing up and down, breathing side to side. Feel yourself releasing the tension of your day. We spend most of our day feeling like we have something stuck between the shoulder blades. It's like we're trying to hold the tiniest of pencils. Here, as we essentially round a little bit through the upper back, we're releasing that tension through there. And of course, we're also supporting energetically the upper half of the body meridians, which are lungs and heart, and their corresponding lower meridians, the small and large intestines. So again, this is a really great practice for that time when there's seasonal allergies or creeping up, or sometimes some people actually have digestive upset from allergies, just from the excess mucus that gets stored in the lungs and in the throat. We're going to take 5 more slow, deep breaths here. Just a really comfortable pace to your breath. Last 2 deep breaths in through the nose and out through the nose. Now slowly on your next inhale, begin to release your arms. Let your hands fall down onto your lap. You can start to feel like the blood is flowing back through your arms, through your fingertips. Just notice over the course of a couple of breaths, just how your upper body feels. Just a little bit more spacious, maybe. I mean, it's still at the very beginning of our practice, so it's lots of time to open and to create space and to release tension. Okay. Now give those arms just a little bit of a shake here. And then we're going to head to the other side. So it's the exact same sequence. Now, if you're sitting cross-legged, maybe you're going to take an opposite cross of the legs just so that you're not creating any tension in through the hips. And then take the arms out once again from the body. This time we're going to wrap left elbow underneath right. Option one is just to take a hold of those shoulders and give yourself a really nice big hug. Staying here, maybe taking those hands back a little further onto the back if that is accessible, but don't worry. If you're just, holding on to the tops of the shoulders, that's okay too. It's whatever feels comfortable. And keep in mind that the body is not symmetrical. So, what you did on the other side might be very different here on this side. You respect what your body is showing you and honoring. And of course, giving yourself that space just to ease into the pose. Making the breath nice and smooth and fluid. Taking out any of the edges of the breath that feel either a little jagged or choppy. And if your mind just veers off in another direction, just pull yourself back by listening or feeling the breath moving through you. We're going to take 3 more rounds of breath, just as we are. And then we might decide to go a little bit deeper, or we might just stay exactly as we are. Now, if you're deciding to shift into a little deeper, you're going to release your hands and start to cross so that maybe you're either taking the palms together or maybe just holding on to the wrist with that left hand. Shoulders readjusted to be brought down away from your neck. And then maybe the elbows are tucked in. It's a little less sensational. Or maybe you're drawing your elbows a little bit more forward and trying to bring them in line with your shoulders. You would keep lots of space in between the neck and the top of the shoulder line. Come back into a nice long, deep breath. Separate the upper molars inside your mouth from the lower ones. Even maybe wiggle out that bottom jawline. Just make sure you're not holding any residual tension in through the jaw or the sides of the neck as a way of compensating for the stretch. Only breathe as deeply as it feels good in your body. I'm going to take our last 5 deep breaths here. One more. Breath in through the nose. Breath out through the nose. And slowly, very carefully unwind the arms. Bring those hands back onto your lap. Just let yourself settle here. Feel that blood flowing back through the arms. Feeling the fingertips. Might be a little bit of tingling sensation in your arms or your hands. That's completely normal with this pose. It's one reason why we don't hold it quite so long, is just to ensure that we're not compressing for too long of a time. And then open the eyes again. Just give the arms a little bit of a shake. And then we're going to meet up in a table position. I'd like you to have a block close by the top of your mat, just in case you need it. Okay. We're just going to get a little flossing into that shoulder joint before we go into our next pose. So from your table, just make sure that your hands are underneath your shoulders and your fingers are spread out nice and wide. Knees are underneath the hips. You're going to take the left arm and reach it up. And then you're going to sweep that left arm underneath you. Tap your ear and shoulder to the mat. And then press back up and take that left arm back up to the sky again. And then once again, you're going to sweep it underneath, tap ear and shoulder to the mat. And then one more time, take the arm up and then reach the arm underneath. And then just slowly come back up. Take the arm back up to the sky. And then sweep the arm forward and land the hand back onto the mat. And then we'll do the exact same thing on the other side. So we're going to take the right arm, reach it up. Exhale, we're going to thread underneath, tap the ear and shoulder to the floor. And then slowly take the arm back up again, lengthening through the fingers. And then exhale, tap. One more time. Take it nice and slow, reach up. And then sweep underneath. And then slowly take the arm, take it all the way up, reach through your fingers, and then sweep the arm forward, hand lands down onto the mat. Okay. From here, you're going to bring your big toes together and open your knees. Okay. If your knees need a little bit of cushioning, feel free to take something and pad underneath the knees. From here, we're going to walk the hands forward. We're going to do that same action. We're going to take the left arm and reach it up. But this time we're going to sweep underneath and we're actually going to stay down onto the shoulder and the ear. This is where the block might feel handy to tuck it underneath the side of your head. Okay. So in this shape here, I want you to think about letting your neck release by feeling it supported on the block. Little tuck of the chin towards the chest. You can turn your left palm so it faces up. And then your right hand can stay in fairly close if you like, or you can start to reach it a little bit more forward towards the top of your mat. It just depends on how that feels on your shoulders. But you want lots of space between the neck and the shoulder here. So adjust your shape if you need to. Bring your knees in a little bit closer to make it a little less sensational. Because as you know, everything is connected here. So even though we're working the upper body, there is still a release that's happening through the hips, the inner thighs, and of course the lower back. Now, if you can, just start to tune into the breath. Just finding a really nice pace to the breath in and to the breath out. Let your upper back soften. It's like think of your upper back as like a book, and you're opening it up to the center. So you're expanding out between each shoulder blade as you kind of feel your collarbones kind of come in and draw a little bit closer towards one another as your chest melts down towards the floor. And keep listening and tuning into the sound of your own breath, in and out through your nose. Now these postures we don't hold quite as long just because upper body fascia and tissue is a little bit more fragile than the lower half that's in our legs and in our hips and in our back. But we still want to hold long enough that we can effectively start to release and take that tension and draw it out of our body and out of our mind, and even draw it out of our energy body so that we can feel more in balance, more at peace, more whole, and just more comfortable in our body. I mean, we're not meant to be rigid and stiff. We're meant to be spacious and open and supple and free, relaxed. You're going to take one more really slow, really deep breath in and out through your nose. And then draw that right hand in as close towards your face as you can. Press into it and start to lift back up. Once you come up, just draw the knees together. Just take a moment, maybe sitting back on the heels, or if you need to release the knees, by all means, maybe just come into a table position and extend those legs out one at a time. Especially if there was any kind of like circulatory issues with your feet, just by having your hips sitting back on your heels. And now we'll meet back in table, and we're going to head over to the other side. So again, opening the knees, bringing the big toes together, deciding, maybe my knees come in a little bit closer tonight for this second round, or maybe they go a little bit wider. It just depends on how it feels in your body. Make sure you've got your block handy in front of you. Start to bring your chest forward and down between the thighs. And this time you're going to sweep that right arm underneath your chest. Land your right ear onto the block or on the floor, as long as that's comfortable on your neck. Your right palm faces up. You can take that left arm and reach it forward if you like, or just keep it really close in towards the side of the face. Once you settle in and adjust, just close your eyes. Find your breath. And see if you can start to find a shifting of your breath where you're moving into something that's just slightly longer on the exhale. So now that we're halfway through our practice, we've started to open things up. We're starting to clear some of the tension and the baggage that the body and the mind and the energy of our body holds. And so now we can start to shift a little bit more into that parasympathetic state, that rest and digest, or that rest and repair state, where our body is in that energy to heal and to let go of whatever it is that it doesn't need to be holding on to. And we can only do that once our body starts to feel a little bit more relaxed. And then it has a complete cyclical effect. So the longer and the deeper you exhale, the more that fuels your body to relax. The more your body relaxes, the deeper you can breathe out. And so it just goes round and around and around like that. And then next thing you know, the posture you're releasing, your body is feeling more spacious, and you've let go of something that you didn't need to hold on to anymore. Every once in a while, just scan your body. Just feel different parts. Areas like even fingers and toes. Sometimes we unconsciously hold or grip in these areas and we're not even aware of it until we actually bring our mind's eye to that spot. So I'm pretty good at, I would say, gripping through my fingers because I use my hands so much for my work. So I'm always like checking in with my hands to make sure that I'm keeping them soft and relaxed. I mean, many of us are sitting in front of a desk, typing all day long or texting or, using these small devices that our hands are not meant to use. And it creates just a lot of tension there. And then we continuously just hold in those places. And even the sides of our neck. The space between the eyebrows. These are all these tiny little spots that we don't always tune into, but yet they're there. Have just a few more cycles of breath. Nice and slow. Nice and deep. At any point, feel free to take a deep breath out through the mouth, especially if you're feeling either agitated or stressed, or it's just been, there's been a lot on the plate. Just breathe in a way that feels good for you. Last deep breath in and long breath out. And slowly start to press into your left hand. Very gently unwind yourself out. When you feel ready again, just take a moment for yourself. Maybe it's sitting back on your heels. Maybe you need, to release those knees once again. Maybe a few rounds of cat and cow. Just whatever it is that helps to make your body transition from being in the pose and feeling the sensation to coming into something neutral where you're observing that everything is letting go. Okay, and that portion is so important to our practice, is just noticing the release and how that makes us feel. And now we're going to come into a seated position on a block. So we're going to do cross-legged position with the right leg in front and the left leg inside. Okay. And you're also going to need your strap. So now we're going to start to move in a little bit deeper through the upper body. But keep in mind, we're not looking to push or force anything. Okay. So with the strap that you have in your hand, or if you're using a scarf or even a belt, you're going to take one end of it into your right hand, and you're going to take your right arm and straighten it up so that your elbow is by your ear. Then you're going to bend the elbow and take the hand back behind you. Okay. And then you're going to take your left hand, you're going to externally rotate it so your palm is facing back, and you're going to loop that hand around and find the strap. Now, what often happens, and I see this happen a lot in my classes, is that people try to bring their hands together on the strap. And what happens when they're super tight is it pulls their hips forward and their ribs forward. And then you end up really curving through the back. And that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for a straight spine. You want to tuck the core and the ribs in. So find a distance between your hands that feels like you can keep your spine straight without it curving too much, and you can keep the ribs contained. Now, some of us, especially if you're very tight in the shoulder, your right elbow might be out to the side, and this left elbow might be kind of out on the side as well. Don't worry about that. It's just finding a shape here that feels good, but it's not too much of a stretch. Okay? Remember that we have some time in this shape, and you want to use that time to your advantage. It's so slow. Most of us will feel this through the left shoulder, the left side of the chest. If you are quite tight in through your bicep or tricep on that left side, you might be feeling it there as well. On the right side, most definitely it'll be the tricep for most people, maybe even the side of the neck. The jaw loves to participate in this particular posture. So can you let your jaw relax? Separate upper and lower molars. Try to keep the chin in level with your chest. So often I'll see people drop their head down. Try to keep the chest and the head level, and the ribs and the belly contained in. Of course, you can always slide your hand down, that left hand down a little bit more if it's, starting to feel like it's a little too intense on the upper body. Just watching the breath. Seeing if you can draw that breath right up into that left collarbone. Again, not forcing it, not pushing it, just mindfully, gently encouraging it to get a little bit longer and a little bit deeper. So this posture is so good at clearing out the chest, opening up the lungs and the heart. It's one of my favorite upper body postures. I love this pose. I don't do it often enough. I should do it more often. And every time I do it, I think, oh, how come I don't do this more often? Okay. Take 2 more deep breaths in and out through your nose. Again, we don't hold too long here because often there's compression that happens in through the hands. So there's that little tingling, numbing sensation that happens here. 1 more breath. You slowly start to release your left hand first. Once your hand comes down to the base of your spine, relax from the strap and just bring your left hand onto your left thigh. And then take the right arm, extend it straight up, out to the side, release the strap, and then just place your right hand on your right thigh. Sit up nice and tall. Just let everything settle here. Let the blood flow back to a normal direction here. If your fingers feel a little bit tingly, just tap them out lightly on your thighs. Take a nice big deep breath in and out. And then we'll switch out the position of our legs just to give those hips a little bit of a break as well. So we'll take left leg in front, right leg on the inside. Make sure you're sitting up nice and tall. Find your strap again. You're going to take it in the left hand and reach that arm straight up. Find a bend at the elbow and draw the hand back. And then find your right palm to turn back. So you get the right external rotation through your shoulder, which is really important here. Find a place to hold the strap. Draw the low belly and the ribs in. So you're going to feel when you do that, your hands are going to feel, especially your right hand's going to feel like it's more in contact with your spine. If it's not, then it's probably you're shoving and drawing those hips forward. So you really want to pull everything in towards the center. And don't worry if the elbow is sticking out a little bit. That's okay. Yeah, the body opens up with time. And I find this pose in particular, for me anyway, is one of the more obvious ones where I know how much tighter my right side is from my left. Like, it's so obvious for me. So when I hold this shape on my own, I will hold this side far longer than I do the other side so that I am working more towards balance. So just keep that in mind for your own personal practice, but also it's really important to notice how you're imbalanced from one side to the other, because how we use our body is actually how we get imbalanced in the first place. So for me, I always carry everything on the right side. I pick up things with the right. I move things with the right. And I don't use my left side as much. So when I'm aware of the imbalance, it makes me mindful to go, oh, wait a minute, I'm about to go and pick that up. Let me use my left arm and my left hand instead. So that I'm always working towards that concept of balance. Keep lots of space between your neck and shoulders. Let's do a little check-in and notice, making sure ribs and belly are drawn in. Spine is long and straight. That breath is deep. Have about another 5 rounds of breath here. It's going to be so good when you actually come out of this shape and you feel the sensation of that tension releasing. One more deep breath in through the nose. And let that breath go. Very slowly. Release the right hand down towards the base of your tailbone. And then from the strap, place the hand around onto the top thigh. And then extend the left arm up and out. Release the strap. Hand onto the left thigh. Now just breathe and just notice and let everything settle here. Just notice how much easier it is to breathe, especially into the upper lobes of the lungs, and maybe even that area just underneath your collarbones. Let's open the eyes. We'll just take the strap out and to the side because we won't need that anymore. You're going to come off your block. And just for a moment, just take the legs out in front of you, and we'll just do a few rounds of windshield wipers just to make sure that we're, getting that tension out of the legs and the hips. So feet nice and wide, hands back behind you. Just slowly start to let those knees rock from side to side. And bring the legs back up to center. Just extend the legs out for a moment. Just give the knees a little bit of a massage here. Okay. All right, we're going to set up for supported fish. This is absolutely my most favorite pose. So I'm going to give you two different ways that you can do this posture depending on how your chest and upper back are feeling. Okay. So for the first block that's going to go behind your head, you're going to have it at the highest level. Okay. Where the difference is going to be is the block that's going to rest behind your heart or right on your shoulder blades is if you're feeling really tight still in the chest, it's going to go horizontal across your upper back so that you're more supported through the upper back from left to right. Okay? If you want to go with a deeper opening through the chest, your block is going to run vertical down the length of your spine. Okay, so this is going to allow for a bigger, more expansive opening through the chest. Okay, so you can choose which one you feel is better for you. The block in either variation, whether it's going horizontal or vertical, is on the lowest level. Okay, I'm going to go horizontal tonight because that's what feels best for my body. And as I come to lay down onto it, I want to make sure that my head is supported. The block is resting the upper back. My bum is grounded. So often people will be lifting through their seat in this, and that means that the block is too low. So you want to make sure it's literally right behind the heart. It's not on the neck at all. So your neck is very free here. And I'll give you the option for the lower half of your body. You can keep your knees bent if you feel like you need a little bit more upper body support and lower back support. If you want to do a little bit of a hip opener, bring the soles of your feet together and let your knees open up into butterfly. Or just take the legs nice and long and wide. Whatever feels most comfortable for here. Keep in mind that everything in the body is connected. So, if your legs are feeling like they're in a shape that is creating effort, it will eventually translate into the upper body. So just making sure things feel really spacious, getting comfortable, settling in, closing the eyes, letting your fingertips kind of curl up. Palms are really heavy. And sometimes it's very tempting to breathe like really deep in this posture, but we have some time here in this shape. So I want you to go really slow and gradual with the breath. Taking your time and working towards a longer breath that feels sustainable in your body. You're breathing up and down. You're breathing side to side. You're breathing in all directions here. And there is no need to hold yourself up in this shape. The blocks are there to support you, to let you release and hold. So when I've been sitting for many hours in a day working, I love to take this shape because it allows my upper body to be in slightly gentle back bend. So it's counteracting a lot of the forward bending that we do when we're sitting. It also helps my lungs open up so I can breathe deeper, because most of us spend our day in a far more shallow, restricted breath. It also helps clear out my lungs and my throat. So if I'm ever feeling kind of congested or heavy in the chest, this posture is so good for that, especially when you're working with any kind of respiratory or bronchial type of issues. This pose just literally opens everything up. Just feel yourself softening and getting heavier and heavier. Being present though, not drifting off or not tuning out. Just being right here, right now in this moment. If you feel really comfortable with your breath, let yourself take a slight pause at the top of your inhale, holding the breath in, and then exhaling and releasing it out, and maybe holding the breath out at the very end. Now, for pregnant women, you never want to hold the breath. You always want to continue to breathe deeply in and out. So there's no restriction. But otherwise, if it feels good, just pause on full and then pause on empty. And just notice what that feels like in the body, especially around your chest, your heart, your lungs. Even the digestive area is open here. So if you just had dinner a little while ago, this is also really good for just helping your digestive system and helping you to digest a little bit more easily with a little less effort. We have a few more moments left here in this shape. Of course, listen to your body. If you need to modify, if you need to come out of the shape early, of course, respecting what your body is telling you. Let your breath rise right up into the tips of your collarbones. Take a little check-in with the jaw and the sides of the neck. Take a couple of really deep swallows, relaxing the front of the throat. Last 5 deep breaths here, in and out through your nose, or feel free to exhale through the mouth if that feels more suitable or accessible in your body. It's so important for us to move our spine in different directions, not just always being hunched forward, but also going back, but also side to side as well. And one of the ways we keep our spine supple and we keep our body strong and healthy is by supporting our spine in different shapes. You're going to slowly start to bring your feet onto the mat if they're not already there. Arms down by your sides. You're going to roll very slowly off to one side, landing in a fetal position, using your bottom arm as an anchor to hold your head. And then just pause there for a moment, just so that it lets your body settle. And then just moving those blocks off to the side and coming onto your back, setting yourself up for final Shavasana. Now, if you'd prefer to take a seated meditation position, absolutely, you can start to bring yourself up to a seat. If you're choosing Shavasana, just getting really comfortable and spacious on your back, drawing those shoulder blades apart, taking the arms away from the body, turning the palms to face up. Now, if you're choosing a seated meditation position, just letting the hands rest on the lap. You're sitting tall, shoulders are drawn away from the ears, eyes are closed. Start to notice the breath at the very tip of your nostrils. So right above your upper lip. Just feel the breath, the sensation of the warmth and the cooling. If your mind veers off of that, just come back. It's okay. The mind is pretty good at distracting us. But we have the ability to just keep coming back to the breath. There is so much power and so much healing when you focus on listening and watching yourself breathe. We so often take our breath for granted. It's just there. We don't actually have to deliberately do anything to breathe. We just do. But it's only when something goes wrong or we stop and become aware of our breath that we notice it. So as always, you have the option to stay here for a little bit longer if you like. There's no rush. Take as much time as you need. When you do feel like your practice is complete, take a moment to pat yourself on the back and to acknowledge that you showed up and that you took this time for yourself. With everything going on in our lives, it is such a gift to have taken this time for ourselves. You're so much happier, healthier, and more vibrant for doing so. Thank you so much for your practice. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next class. Namaste.